Okay, I think I had to sort out a sound problem I was having. That's why I'm late here. Okay, well, I think I got it fixed now, and if I don't, hi. So, thank you very much to my patrons that are very supportive, and $3 a month, and it lets me do a lot of these things that I'm doing and sharing with other people, and I appreciate it immensely. Helps me out with buying art supplies. Yeah. So, here's we're going to jump right into it. Here's today's page, and so what I've got going with today's page is the suggestion yesterday that was picked was, excuse me, I'm sorry, I'm trying to get my voice back. Hi Linda, welcome aboard. So the suggestion yesterday was a backcountry families that seem at first hillbilly are secretly superior scientists and with subterranean advanced cultures. It's that's a fun suggestion. And so if you saw the posting earlier today, I posted them in black and white, and like so. And just because I hadn't the opportunity yet to sit down and do any coloring on it, and so I started doing so and laying in the flat colors so that you can maybe see a little more clearly now the separations between panels and the separations between the various progressions in the scenes. So yeah, this is a fun page. It's the first thing that I've drawn on this new paper that I picked up, and I quite like this new paper. Here's this is the original sketch that we did for today's page yesterday during the live stream, and there's the result. So, which pretty closely follows that sketch idea. Yeah, thanks, Chris. Something went wrong with my mic, so I fixed it. Thank you for letting me know. So there's the original art for this page that I drew. I gave an option of portrait or landscape, and somebody said, "Why don't you do planescape?" which is a middle ground between the two, and so I did. And I did this page as though the panels went across on a 45-degree angle. Now, if you look at this in a portrait format, excuse me, my voice is still coming back. If you look at this in a portrait format, everything tilts down to the right. If you look at it in a landscape format, everything tilts up to the right. And I think that landscape-wise is the best way to have the textual progression across the page and have it make some sense. So this is the original art for that. I really enjoy drawing on this new paper. I did this using a color erase green pencil. That's my big tool. I had started to block in contour values in the blue, and I realized I don't need to do that when I transfer it over. So Chris says, my schedule is very saturated with other home issues to solve. I'll be here for around 45 minutes before I head out. Oh, that's awesome. I'm glad that you're able to join today, Chris. I appreciate that immensely. And I hope that all these issues that are being solved are coming together for you. There's always these challenging moments, right? Excuse me a second. Corbin believes he's helping me when he bites the end off pens and moves them away. Not a very helpful boy. Okay, so here is Chris says the green tones look really nice. Oh, well, thank you. So this is a lot of fun to just use one value, and this paper is really nice for drawing on. It's got a little bit of tooth to it as opposed to just being a hot press cardstock where it's very, there's no sense of texture, like tactile surface to it. So I really enjoy this to work on, and this page just we did the layout, and then I just sat down, and it just flowed out of me in a couple of hours, and the whole page was drawn. So yeah, a lot of fun to work on. And then of course, once the page is scanned, there we go. There's the finished. Let me do this first. There's the finished line art with the text over top, and then I'm starting to color it, and I'll put the colored version of the page up on Patreon. So okay, so there's that. That's today's page done. Now I've got a couple of books, as I usually do, to show you. Some fun ones. Okay, and let me switch over here back to the camera. So this is the art of Marko Djurkovic. If I'm pronouncing it wrong, boy am I apologetic. But this is a really cool collection of this artist's work. Now he's done a lot of Marvel work at the time that they put this out. And I'll just tell you the ISBN now so I can just put this away. 978-0-7851-3962-1. Now, what I like about Marko's work is that there's a classic sense of style. And Chris says, "Oh my God, Avengers! The cover looks so cool." Chris, it wraps around. It wraps right around there. But wait, there's more. He has a classic sense of style to him, and he's got his designs and his way of working is really interesting to me. He's got a great sense of form. He's got a great sense of dramatics. You can see here that he's trying different cover layouts before he does the finished image. You know, different assemblages of the characters, and that's really kind of great to sit down and go through it like that. And so he's going through and doing a number of different covers for this X-Men series he worked on, and culminating with this one. Look at this. Oh my gosh. So, and then he switches over and he does Blade, the Vampire Hunter. And he did a whole bunch of covers for this book as well. There's Vampire Santa. But look at the use here of three planes. Your dark colored foreground, okay, your mid-tone grayed out intermediate ground, and then this orange value with some patterning in it for that background, and just really separates the planes really fine, and I like it. I like how he works. He has an interesting sensibility. So then he followed that series by doing the Thunderbolts, which is a bad guy, bunch of reformed bad guys trying to be a superhero team, as encouraged by the Avengers. And so there's a lot of really interesting covers that he's done for this. But then we get into his Daredevil period, where he did some Daredevil work. Vampire Santa. Well, that's new for me. Yeah. You can make a vampire anything, really. So here's, he's got all of his really, look at these really interesting graphic elements he's assembled together for this cover. And this symbolic approach to laying out the pages, and there's Bullseye throwing playing cards at him. Anyhow, we've got it culminates with, look at this fancy Daredevil cover with all these characters on it. And then he gets into some of the mystic superheroes. He has a run where he does Spider-Man. He has a run where he does some Ghost Rider stuff. And then we get into his Thor. There it is. So then he gets into his Thor run. And this is where you see a lot of this. So a lot of Avenger characters are going to start popping up. Chris asks, is he mixing traditional and digital coloring? Yes, he's drawing traditionally, but it looks like his coloring is digital. So, because if we look at excuse me, if we look at this penciled drawing, of course it's the exact same imagery here for the finished composition, but he's done all this really fantastic texture work and values, and then here he is again painting colors onto his nice crisp pencil work, his nice crisp black and white work. And you know, when you can get guys that have a grasp of that, it's something I'm working towards. You can take things like this, okay? There's some interesting elements here, okay? Shape language there that casts off into just abstraction around the outside edge. But then when you see how, and then there's a slight outline of what looks like a lightning. Thor is appropriate. But when you go into the digital, and so how he blurs out the fabric of the capes now, where before it was an abstract shape, now it's textured. Or some of the rock shapes that were down here in the bottom have been given more form. And what was this simple thick line for a lightning bolt has now become all of this cascading value. So really, really great grasp on things. And he does a bunch of covers. And then the Avengers. So here you go, Chris. His Avengers run is some great cover work. Here's Captain America issue 25. And then we get into his Invincible Iron Man issue 1. You know, just there's the Mighty Avengers after the Wasp. There's Wonder Man. I love that character. Just always thought he was cool, wearing his sunglasses all the time. And he just keeps playing with these cover images and these character combinations and how dramatic they are in their movement. There's a redo of an old school Kirby cover of Captain America saying Avengers Assemble, and this is during a monthly crossover event where the Skrulls, which is this bad guy race that can take on anybody's shape, but they have this crenellated chin. This is Skrull versions of all of these characters. It's just so fun. It is really amazing. I didn't know his work. I just knew about Alex Ross. I think I'm confusing names. You're not. Alex Ross is a really talented painter. I've got a number of Alex Ross books behind me. Excuse me, that I can show people. I just thought I'd show you Marko Djurkovic. There's his Yellow Jacket, his Vision, and he's redoing these old covers as though that the bad guys have replaced the characters as variant covers. And Linda says these are awesome pictures. They really are, aren't they? Daredevil's a Skrull. Captain Marvel, not a Skrull, but the Window of the Avengers are all Skrulls. He's the enemy of the Skrulls, by the way. So he did a whole bunch of these Avengers covers, and then he went on to do Hulk, and his Hulk is the Barbarian Gladiator period, and just fantastic. The intensity and the rage in this character, something else. And there's the Hulk family. And a lot of people don't realize there's a whole bunch of different Hulk related characters that are all, you know. Anyhow, so that we get into his Magneto limited series. It talks about Eric Lehnsherr's childhood growing up, and pardon me, a lot of people don't know that Magneto was a survivor of Auschwitz. So in the contextual narrative of the universe. And then these are variant covers of the 70th anniversary of characters. There's the Submariner there. You know, all kinds of people. But, pardon me, one other thing I wanted to show you is his design work. I'm just going to take a drink first. It's taken time for my voice to come back fully, so in his design work, okay, he's got a lot of really interesting things happening with characters. This is a character that's a bad guy in the new Spider-Man animated film, but you can see how he lays things out and how he puts together the compositions by giving each person their own space in the narrative and something that actualizes their own persona. So, and there, of course, and then he sits down and digitally paints it all. Now the other thing, some fun in the sun. There's the Eternals. Here's one of the best characters in comics, Howard the Duck. He's from an alternate universe where everybody's ducks. Let me see. Now so here he has done a bunch of concept art, design work for characters. And so in his design work for characters is where you see how he comes up with really intricate and involved costumes for characters for these books that he works on. Chris says, I didn't know you were sick. Sorry, I've been away from streams the last 2 weeks. I barely watched due to lack of time. The other issues I'm trying to finish. Oh, thanks. I haven't been around much in the last 2 weeks, so I completely get it. So this is his versions of X-Men. And I kind of want him to draw this X-Men book because they look a lot more interesting, Look at some of these designs. Like, these are just crazy. Storm, Rogue, Jean Grey, Beast, Wolverine, Nightcrawler. Just the detail would make it a bit of a chore to draw all of this. But, boy, oh boy. It's cool looking, huh? So, Cannonball, Iceman, Bishop, Cannonball's cowboy hat. So yeah, so this is, I'll put his name up one more time. It's the art of Marko Jurkovic, maybe. If it's not, I apologize. Really like his stuff. And take a look at his work. It's really great. Now, another thing I want to show you quick is this. This is the Insight Studios. And Insight Studios, Mark Hamill and Mark Wheatley are two creators that had big influence on me as a young guy, started my interest in storytelling and graphic storytelling. And then Frank Cho, of course, a lot of people know Frank Cho from Liberty Meadows. But Insight Studios is the art studio that they all share. And so this book showcases their different work and the different images that they put together. That's a Frank Cho. Strong black and white composition based in... that's Mark Wheatley's layouts and Frank Cho's finishes. So that's this very strong root in classic illustration, classic pen and ink. See all kinds of fun stuff that they've done over time. And it's exciting and interesting to see how these artists work in a studio together. That's Adam Hughes doing a rendition of one of their characters. That's Michael Oeming, same thing. But it's interesting to see how these different people in a space together have diverse working styles, and yet despite that diversity, they've got these other artists nearby them to encourage them for their trade and their graphic storytelling. These are absolutely lovely books. Frank Cho started doing a newspaper weekly for a student newspaper at his university, and he would draw these cartoon characters, and then he on Sundays would do these elaborate pen and ink drawings. And man, very talented. But there's a Kong fighting pterodons. There's a fun little guy. There's a lady in some kind of weird heart egg sack thing. A little cheeky sometimes, the art by this guy, but there's a Cho drawing of a lady versus a four-armed lizard monster. But this is where he started, was doing graphic storytelling like this. and having a lot of fun with it, like Sheki, the Monkey King. And the mighty cat's muscles rippled with anticipation. Schmeck stood his ground with a grim smile and awaited the cat's attack, and awaited the cat's attack, and awaited the cat's attack, and await. Turn the page already! Quit reading over my shoulder! Just, oh, that's such a fun, and that's the recurring motif, is that the one guy is always reading with the other, so good fun. But this is his Liberty Meadows work, and some of his characters are in those. This is just him imagining this adventure with his puppy, and meanwhile he's imagining himself, not very much different, but he's a Triceratops. And then these would be his Sunday installments, like how to draw a wiener dog, oval, draw another oval, details. That's the kind of art tutorial that makes it challenging to learn from. But again, here's some of his lovely Sunday work, and you can see more and more of it. But yeah, Liberty Meadows was a lot of fun, his book, and then we get into Mark Hempel, who I really enjoy. Well, that's a little cheeky, but I really enjoy Hempel's paintings. I mean, this is lovely. Some of these really interesting details and shape language that he utilizes, and you know, just some good work. Dracula and Jack the Ripper. Dracula versus Jack the Ripper, isn't that something? Chris likes the riding a dino part. You know, and then he had his Tuck and Buster series, which is quite fun. What I always liked was this character here, Naked Brain. His series that he did where he talked about his sketches of ideas, and so he would, you know, do these little panels of his mental state breaking down and things like that, and just Nat King Kong. Anyhow, I'm going to jump over to Mark Wheatley, and Wheatley is here's Mark Wheatley. Wheatley has done, and Hempel have done, a number of different books together that just inspiring and interesting approaches to storytelling. Like you can see in these different ways of applying ink, like you can see similarities to guys like Breccia, who I've shown material of, and yet his watercolor, or his what is this? Is this gouache? I think, yeah, I think this might be like a gouache or a really basic acrylic, but just simple color fields. And then look at this level of detail in this inks. Now my cameras are never going to pick up all the intricacy of this, but this is all crosshatch. This is all stippling. You know, this is all smudging. Just really, really talented all-around artist, and I really have enjoyed his work for a long time. There's his cover for The Adventures of Baron Munchausen, which is an absolutely genius Terry Gilliam film. And then he gets a little cheeky at times with his lots of characters in there. ISBN for this, excuse me, 1889317 and then -11 -X. Now, the last bit of fun before I start working on today's page. Now, I've often talked about Jack the King Kirby, pardon me, and how he is responsible for creating so much of what we know of contemporary comics. He created Captain America in the 40s. He created, went to war, you know, came back and worked on a bunch of romance books and a bunch of big monster books. And then in the early 60s, he created the Fantastic Four, the X-Men, the Incredible Hulk, Thor, what else? So many characters. I mean, these are just these major books that came out at the time. So, and which basically makes Marvel. There's no Avengers without Jack Kirby's creating the majority of the characters. So, in the 1970s, he wasn't feeling appreciated at Marvel. So he contacted some of the people that are over there. Pardon me. It stems from he wanted to do Ragnarok and Thor. He wanted to kill Thor and all of the Thor characters. In Norse mythology, there's Ragnarok, which is the culmination of the life cycle, and all of the gods fight against all of the bad gods, and they all die. And then they're the world, and they are all reborn. And Marvel said, "What are you, crazy? We're not letting you kill off all these cool characters that people like." So he went over to DC. He tooled everything up with those ideas that he's had, and he created New Gods and Darkseid and Orion and all of these different characters, and based somewhat in religious beliefs. This character, Darkseid, one of the biggest and meanest characters in comics, is partially based on Richard Nixon. And anyhow, so this whole Fourth World omnibus, where he creates all of these characters of the New Gods and Darkseid and the Forever People and Mr. Miracle and his wife Big Barda. He's like, 6 feet tall. His wife's 7 feet 2. That's her there. She's the Brawn. He's the escape artist. So much cool stuff. Anyways, one of the things that he did in here is he created a character called the Funky Flashman. And he was so sick and tired of Stan Lee taking credit for all the things that he himself created that he put Stan Lee in the Mr. Miracle book as a character named Funky Flashman. And he gave the alliterative way of speaking and the flashy, full of baloney-ness to this character. "You say no more, you act sensational. Glad I wore my uneasy rider outfit today. Well, let's rediscover America together, superstar. You and folksy to a fault funky. Bolts of Zeus, I can't believe it's all just slipping out of bonds and times and split-second timing." Like, everything he says is this whole carnival barker kind of a thing. And whenever Stan Lee would appear, it's a voice over every cartoon that Marvel made. He'd say, "Hey, kids, your pal Stan Lee here," and he'd do all this sort of business. So he put him in here as the Funky Flashman, this sales guy who's always getting in the middle of things. And anyways, the reason that I wanted to show you these books with all these really great characters and this over-the-top, absolutely pure imagination spilled onto paper. Now, the style is very... It could be really hard for some people to dial into Jack Kirby on the immediately, because there's a really specific style, a really strong sense of style to it. But once you realize the power in his storytelling, and how, while it might have interesting shape language and everything feels a little chunky, his dynamic storytelling and his ability to let you know everything you need to know for this story to move forward visually is on point. So the reason that I'm bringing these up and showing you just the pure rock and roll imagination of this fella, and how he creates all these principal characters at one company and then goes over to another and does it again. This is so incredible and so completely over the top. Now, recently they put out a book where they take this Mr. Miracle character, and Tom King and Mitch Gerads did a series where they explore all of these characters, this Fourth World characters, which is where you've got this is basically a retelling of the things that I just showed you in here, emulating the style of these stories and the structures of the faces to look a little Kirby-esque. But the rest of the book, once we step out of this this, what's considered this fictional part of the narrative, when we step into the reality of the narrative, its art style is like this, and it's very, very graphic. It's still these same characters that are in these Fourth World books, but the way that he tells these characters, the way that Mitch Gerads' art works in a storytelling style approaching this all, is this really cool use of contemporary art and technology to re-examine this 1960s pop explosive style of Kirby, and 1960s, 70s. This is Highfather. This is basically the good leader of the New Gods, who is the father of this Mr. Miracle character, whose real name is Scott Free. He's an escape artist, and his name is Scott Free. That's fantastic. Anyways, there's the Highfather, his actual dad, having a conversation with him, and it's just about a character going through grief and loss, is what this series is about, because his assistant Oberon, who is the third in this trio of characters, and he's all throughout. There's Oberon there, this character who looks very much like the real Jack Kirby, by the way. Well, he's passed away, and it's this character dealing with grief and loss, and while that's happening, there's just this massive war on his home planet between these Fourth World New God characters. So it's really, 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 really interesting to me to take that entire world that was built from the imagination of Kirby and to build upon that, and to develop these large compositional arrangements that, with a lot, see, there's the funky Flashman again, and use these repetitive story elements and simplification elements. There's his face there. There he is bringing food to his mouth. Just these lovely little interesting pieces to build this sophisticated language of communication between two characters in an interesting way, where here he is talking to his wife across the table, and at one point, as she's trying to console him and affirm him, she reaches out and holds his hands, but he's not in that mental state where he's withdrawn, so he pulls his hand away. And that sort of symbolic language has massive information to convey to the audience, so that they can register this and associate this with other things they might have seen, or even more interestingly, maybe their own experiences. And so it gives some reality to these completely artificial characters, and just great fun. Really interesting stuff, and the little bits and bobs in here about his. This may be my last show for a while. I just want to say thank you. Thank you for all you've done for me. I couldn't be more grateful. Thank you. He's waving at you from atop this barrel. He gets into the barrel, and a train is just about to plow into it. And then we move on. It's just these little vignettes of all of these escape acts that he's going to do, which always start under severe duress, and just really compelling stuff. But just great stuff with the flaring of the lights to make you feel like it's a scene in a car on a highway. Here's them sitting up on a hill overlooking the city lights. Just really great storytelling, and it's rooted in really great imagination from a character. So okay, well, I had fun drawing this in the green pencil on this new paper yesterday, and we'll check off this suggestion for the page that was put up today, this one here. And also I posted yesterday, with the page that I posted for yesterday, I posted small little images. I've done 10 pages in the last so many days, and I only posted a couple for Facebook and Instagram, but the rest of them are all on the Patreon there. And I've got additional ones that you can see that I'm putting together here on the screen. So, but I appreciate everybody's understanding that I haven't been feeling well. So, anyhow, let's get on with today's page. I'm wondering if people are finding this helpful, where I break down an idea for the page design and we play with, exploring whatever the suggestion is in a fluid kind of way. I do try to stick to that with, I've really held tight to the layouts that we put together during yesterday's stream, and I just sat down, and because of this good feel of this paper, it just sort of spilled out. But if this is helpful, working it out on a sheet of paper like this, I can continue doing that. If that helps people through the creative process, just let me know. Let's see, today's page. This is all checked off. We're getting there. Oh, I gotta check that off. I missed checking that one off. I realized before I got sick, I started doing a page that I've already done, which is why I didn't complete that page. So, and I've got, I'll be posting as well with tomorrow's page, the page that was from people's suggestions, from the last draw that I did before I got sick. I did do that page, I just haven't posted it yet. I'm just trying to catch up with everything. There's a fun one. Spoiled space captain betrayed by not the crew. I found something a few minutes ago, and I read, and let me see if I can find it again, because I thought that was kind of fun. Excuse me. Chris says, the prompt book, trying to finish my own April Dragon, it will take longer. The work that we do needs to take whatever time it needs to take. This ridiculous page a day thing that I do is because it tends to I need the structure for it, and so it forces me to have to adhere to structure and to encourage myself to do what I can, and then to move on from that. And I can see that it takes more time in it, and if I took more time to do the things that I'm doing, there might be much different results. But it's a tricky thing. It's a heck of an idea. Giant man playing with his Hot Wheels ducks into the bathroom, has flooded everything, and lost his keys. I like that. Let me see if I can find this idea there that popped up earlier. It was around here, I believe. Trying to shake it up, Okay, this was it, I think. Cool. Chris says, I finished the Needle Felted Otter. Oh, fantastic. That's awesome. All right, Chris, that's great. If anybody wants to talk about the stuff that they're working on, or let us know if you've got any special things coming up, please feel free to do so. I'm a big fan of encouraging and supporting each other. Chris has a very crazy idea helps sometimes to finish a project. No way I could finish something in a single day. Well, okay, but we're doing different things too, right? And the way we approach our stuff and the way that we engage with our process is entirely our own. We don't. There's no. Never feel like you have to keep up with the Joneses. Okay, let's put this down here. A woman. Whoa, man. Is arrested on a cruise ship. So, I'll do this in a better tool than this. Yeah, and I picked the lightest gray I can find. Boy, I'm just swinging for the fences, folks. How are you? You'll do the job. Woman arrested on a cruise ship for a strange jelly thing in her purse. And her husband denies ever having seen it. So I remember now where this comes from. Yolanda, I wrote in parentheses Yolanda, and that's Cat and Paste that suggested this. Thank you, Cat. So I remember where this comes from. So a friend who is a friend of many people here does a great deal of jelly plating and their work. And excuse me. And so they needed to leave their jelly plating materials behind so that they could go on a nice cruise vacation with their partner, because it would be weird if they took it with them. And it turned into all kinds of ideation that was coming from the people in her chat about, well, how weird would that be if you're on this cruise and, you know, they're like, what is this jelly thing, ma'am, in your purse here, you know? And did you pack your own luggage? Yeah. Well, so she left it at home and enjoyed her time on her holiday. But just the idea that she would take that with her was quite fun. Okay, so that's where that comes from, is a jelly plate. But the idea that it's a strange jelly thing was suggested. Not a jelly plate, a strange jelly thing. It gives us a lot of leeway. Okay, so with this in mind, let's look at our key pieces of information. We got a cruise ship. We got the strange jelly thing and a purse, right? The husband denying, okay, and the woman arrested. So there's a whole bunch of different key elements in this suggestion that we can try to incorporate into the narrative of our page. So if we look at we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 different points here. Cruise ship, woman arrested, strange jelly thing in her purse, husband's denial. There's a bunch of different ways that we can do this, and you know, there's all kinds of different ways we can turn it on its head. We can do it literally, where we take point by point and try to incorporate that into our narrative, or we can allow ourselves to understand these 4 different elements within the suggestion and say, well, how can I put this into a larger narrative? If we have the ship, let's just start with the big cruise ship, and so we'll draw this massive cruise ship. I went to draw it like a regular old boat, forgetting that cruise ships are something else these days. Right? And if we do our big cruise ship, and we can play with the idea that there's some kind of notification throughout the ship, maybe, about passengers staying where they are, you know. So we've got our ship, and then our notice. And so what our notice is allowing us is a way to establish a narrative voice that the authorities on the ship are hoping people stay within their cabins. There's a strange thing reported on the ship, and they're doing a cabin by cabin inspection to see if they can find it. Why not? But we can also play with some ideas here. We could turn this into kind of a Judas scenario, where the lady with the jelly thing in her purse is, as she's been told out about, that's she's got it there in her purse there, and as they inspect it and say, do you know about this, to the husband can deny it 3 times. I don't know. We could play with other story elements from other narratives. Chris says a story back in time, maybe in the 1910s, and a kind of Titanic cruises look. That's kind of fun. I think that's fun. 1910s. We'll do that. But it is, yeah, that's a lot of fun. Now, we can take some leaps here, too, because the jelly thing is a jelly plate for doing jelly plating with. But the person carrying their jelly plate around with them is, it's for making crafts. Like, how do you explain what this flippity floppity thing is? It just looks like a sheet of compressed gelatin. No, let me show you. Yeah, I've heard enough, ma'am. Get into the cell. So there's a lot of fun in this. Let's we've got our ship. We'll have, now I've done these circular objects because it could be one of 2 things. We can do it as a what do you call when there's these objects that are on the side of a boat that surround the window? What are the circular windows? And so we can have somebody in the circular window looking like a newscaster. We could play with those motifs. Or we can have a speaker, up in the corner of a hallway. Like, let's say if we've got a hallway scene like this, and there's people looking up at the speaker, oh my, and in the up against the wall here in the corner is this speaker that's beep 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 beep, and it's saying the key pertinent information for us to establish the context, the key elements for our narrative that we ask it all. Portholes. Thank you so much, Linda. Portholes. Thank you. How many times can I say portholes today? Jelly plating on a cruise sounds crazy. No, says Chris. So that's why I did the circular motif here with the cruise, with the big Titanic-esque ship. Now, or we can do the speakers, and that allows us, if we do these speakers, if instead of these 2 portholes, if we switch to this scene of the hallway, right? Let's try to spell hallway correctly. And so with this speaker telling us the key pieces of information throughout all of this space here, we can then cut over to a shot of our captain putting down the microphone that he's been speaking through, and then turning towards this couple and saying, all right, what exactly are we talking about here? And it's a way to, or not to the couple per se, but to some people saying, what are we talking about here? It's some sort of crazy, weird jellyfish-like object, but it's flat. Like it's hard to explain, sir. Well, I want every cabin inspected. Right? That's an idea. Chris says, I hate to go, but I need to take care of some errands. See you around. See you around, Chris. Thank you very much for coming and hanging out. So so we can just drop ourselves right into the narrative structure through this. We've established the scene. It's Patricia and Mariah. Hello, 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 hello. Welcome aboard. So we've established right here off the top, woman arrested on a cruise ship. So here's our cruise ship panel. Sorry, I've moved that down for you. And I can make that a little bit bigger if that helps too. There we go. That's a little better. I'm sorry for that. So, woman arrested on a cruise ship for a strange jelly thing in her purse. Husband denies ever seeing it. And this suggestion is about Yolanda going on vacation and wanting to have taken her jelly plate with her. But we're setting this in the 1910s on an old-fashioned cruise ship. So we're just going to play with time. Time isn't necessarily important, honestly, in our storytelling other than the pacing and structure within our story. But there's nothing to say that you can't have a 1930s private eye world set in space. Why not? Linda says printing on gel plates is from this century, so time travel may be involved. Time travel is another opportunity there, Linda. That's great. That's a great idea too. But it adds an extra element, and we've already got 4 points in our suggestion to draw from. But Mariah says strange things happen in space. Strange things happen at the Circle K. Anyways. Pardon me. My voice is still coming back, folks. I'm doing my best to pace it out. So we establish our ship scene. We establish the hallway scene where notification is being made through... Oops, I'm so sorry. Our ship scene here. We establish our first panel overlapping onto over the ship, which is establishing that the notification is going out through the speaker. And then we cue that right over to the captain or whoever is making that notification. I hope if I get my face off of this so that you don't have to look at my goofy mug and I keep moving this around. Excuse me. Okay, so here we go. So we've got this established. I want room to room being searched on the ship to find this strange jelly thing. And so there's the captain at the microphone. All right, captain and Mike in that panel. And then here's the orders. And now, we can draw the orders 2 ways, because let's keep in mind that this is a visual medium with textual additions to it. And so if he's giving the orders, we have 2 ways of depicting that. We can either depict it as, him standing here. I'll move this up for a second. So we can have him standing here, pointing his finger. All right, you guys go. And then we'll have these guys all standing here in a row. Yes, sir. Of course, sir. Whatever you say, sir. And he says, you guys go and search every room. Right? That's one way we can do this. But is it necessary for him to be saying, go, in the search business, go guys? Is it necessary to do it like this? Because we've already got him saying, I want you to go and search every room. So we know he's giving that command to somebody. So we can short step this, because the next image, of course, would be, here's these guys, There you go. There's hand. He's leaning on the door, searching in the room. I'm sorry. So here's the command. Here's the action. Well, textually, we can state the command. Okay, you guys go and search the rooms, and we can immediately place that dialogue over top of the action. So, I want you guys to go and search every room. So if we draw a scene like this where we've got, let's make this doorway smaller, and so that we can show a couple more doors, and we've got guys standing at each of these doors, and going into each room and exploring every room looking for the jelly thing. So rather than drawing him making a command and then showing the action in the next panel, we can just place, you guys go search over top of the action, and thereby shortening these two panels, 1, 2, into one panel. So now it's the text and the action together. Okay? So so we'll be using this panel here for that one. And then of course for the captain on the microphone panel, we'll have, here's the captain and he's holding up the microphone, he's talking into that. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, here's your captain speaking. There's a weird jelly thing on my ship and I wanted off, or whatever he's saying. Okay, so we've established this panel, and we've established this panel now. So we've got cruise ship, check. And then strange jelly thing in her purse and the husband denies ever seeing it. So the woman gets arrested. Those are the other three elements. And what these two panels are doing is setting up these three elements. There's a bunch of different ways that we could do this. By looking at it through some kind of a story arc, some kind of a story means, and that story means for this one is, why is she going to get arrested, right? Because of the weird jelly thing that some lady has in her purse here on the ship, and the crew doesn't know what it is, and they're not comfortable with it. So captain, give the orders, the guys are searching, and the next panel that we can have, here's the captain coming up, so we can just short step the whole, ma'am, can we look in your purse business, and we'll just move that right up to as read, and then have these two guys that are standing on either side of the door, and here's the lady holding her purse in front of her in that doorway. Okay, and we can just move right into that. Stretch that image out to over here. And so that lets us have the captain coming up and saying, okay, let's get to the bottom of this. As the two guys say, this is the lady, sir. She's the one carrying the jelly thing in her purse, and she won't let us take it, sir, says the other one, right? Whatever the dialogue is, we're establishing the conflict itself. The lady with a strange thing in her purse. And then the captain says, and here's the other 2 points. The captain says to the husband, do you know about this? And the husband says, with his arms up, no, I didn't know she brought that on our holiday. And and then we can have the lady getting arrested, because until we figure out what this thing is, ma'am, you're going to have to come with us, and you're under arrest. And so here's the two dudes. One's got her in handcuffs, and the other one's reading her the arrest, whatever it is, from boats. And she could say, but it's only for crafts. And there's our punchy finish. So here she is getting arrested. So if we look at this from the suggestion, woman arrested on a cruise ship for a strange thing. So we'll put a 1 for the woman arrested. We'll put a 2 for the fact it takes place on the cruise ship. We'll put a 3 for the strange jelly thing. And we'll put a 4 for the husband's denial. So if we look at these elements, let's check them off. We've got number 2 is up here at the top. There's the cruise ship. And here's the conflict. We're establishing the narrative and the conflict with these panels of, the captain giving orders and all of the crew going around searching cabin to cabin. Okay, so this doesn't really have a numerical application to it. This is us, establishing a 5th piece of flourish just to build up our story a little bit more. And so there it is. Here's the woman has a strange thing in her purse, and that confrontation is right here. So there's the 3, right? A husband is asked about it. I'd Don't know why she brought that on our trip. I don't remember seeing her having brought that with her. Hey, Corbin. You want to sit down? And then, of course, the last point is here, and that is, so there's 2, 3, and 4, and then the woman is arrested is the last panel. And, of course, the last panel is where it lets us go, you know, but it's for crafts, it's for art, you know. And there's our culmination of our story element, and you know, but it's for crafts and art. I guess it would be arts and crafts. So we've sort of broken down a structure to our page, and it informs us about all the elements that we want to put together. Now, the way that I've laid things out with these silly box shapes and overlapping shapes here, it doesn't mean I have to stay to this. It was just simply a means of drawing these different box shapes while putting together the page, just you know, just to keep it interesting and to separate one thing from the next. But it doesn't mean that I have to stick to these shapes, although when I look at them overall, there is something fun to this sort of a structure for the page itself. We've got, and I hope this is helpful to folks, but we've got an open panel, right? An open panel at the top here where it's just the boat on the water and no real frame of reference around it. Frame of reference around the boat would look like so with the boat. The boat gets more and more rudimentary as I go. And an open panel, right? I'm sorry, is more like this, where we've got the boat here on the water, and we've only drawn the water part of our panel. There's no framing around the exterior edges. It just drops off at the sides and the bottom, but there's no sky illustrated in here. It's just focusing on the principal element in and of itself, and that is the cruise ship, the boat. All right, and then when we take this next panel that we then layer over top here and bed it in a little bit, bump it over top of the pre-existing panel, because we got the gist of, we don't need to have all of this water in here, okay, because the point of this panel is the cruise ship. So we can overlap the information in this panel with our next panel if we like. By doing that in a closed panel, lets us give a little bit of rigidity and structure to it, but and this lets us have the people, you know, in the hallway playing shuffleboard or whatever people get up to on cruise ships, and there's the speaker in the corner, and we can have, you know, somebody looking up at it to help contextualize for the reader that the focus of attention is to be drawn to this to this element. So, and then this leaves us space for the dialogue to move through here down to our speaker. Pardon me. See how much longer I can last, folks. So then, in order to continue the flow of things, we can put these next two panels bumping underneath of this one. Now, the challenge of that is that your eye is probably going to go to the one that it overlaps. So we want it to go down to here. So we want to break for this next panel to come out of it this panel, so that the eye goes, and there's a space in between the two, so that your eye goes like so, like so. Oh, I'm so sorry, ridiculous. I apologize. So here's the panel that we just talked about. There's the next one, which is underneath this guy in the corner, so that your eye goes from here to here, and then if we leave a space between these two panels, it breaks that continual flow the visual flow, and so that your eye now moves over from here. Pardon me. And then our next panel down, we can place directly underneath like so, because we've already trained our reader's eye to do this. So that now we're going to move down to this piece of the composition, which is where everybody's facing each other in the hallway. And so that continues the flow of our page. And in those last two elements at the bottom, it's just a reiterative shape pattern of like we have here. So I think we've got a structure figured out. I think we've got it all laid out to do this. I'm going to come back. Pardon me. I'm going to come back and get this done. But my voice is clearly done. So I better wrap it up for now. Thank you, everybody that's come out today. I hope that my voice and the coughing as my throat is coming back together again still isn't too bad. And if it is, I apologize. But we've got a fun suggestion today in reference to our good friend Yolanda, Devon Rex for Art. I believe she's streaming Wednesday. I think she might be streaming now. But please go check out her work that she does with jelly plating. She's very talented. And I'm looking forward to putting her in a page. So I hope she doesn't mind. So, yeah, we'll explore this idea a little bit more. And it's a lot of fun. Thank you, Cat and Paste, for this suggestion. But there's our structure. There's our big old piece of paper that I'll do it on, just the same as I did today's page on the paper like so. And so we'll see what we can do to make this a little more interesting visually, to move things around, like our crazy diagonal page that we did for today. And we'll see how we can relate that to the composition we're doing for today. Though I'm going to try to figure out ways to make this a little interesting and compelling. So, as usual, if anybody has one-page story ideas that they'd like to suggest, or pieces of conversation, or simple word prompts, or anything like that, you're always welcome to do so. You can put that in the comments for this video. You can put it in the comments on Instagram or on Facebook. You're welcome to do so for any of those things. And if you see any suggestions or ideas, including this one, that you think are interesting and you might want to give a crack at yourself with your own storytelling capabilities, please feel free to do so. I highly encourage it. This is a fun way to explore story, and I enjoy doing it each day. And I'm sure that there's all kinds of fun things and different approaches and how people would like to interpret themselves. And there's no one is better than another. It's just different ways of assessing the same story. So please feel encouraged to do so. I will be back tomorrow at 2 p.m. And I thank everybody for their time today. And I will see you tomorrow. I'll have this posted on Instagram and Facebook and Patreon in the morning. But I'll see you tomorrow. Bye for now, everyone.